This week, instead of a movie, I'm reviewing Season 2 of Marvel and Netflix's Daredevil, because that's what I watched over the weekend, and it's kind of up my alley of things anyway, so what the hell. Season 2 of Daredevil is an improvement in almost every way over the first season, which hasn't aged well over the past year, especially in comparison to the other Netflix Marvel project, Jessica Jones, which still outclasses Daredevil in every way other than perhaps opening credits. However, Daredevil still does everything you'd expect it would from the first season, does it better, and even brings to the screen a better character in Punisher than I thought could ever be possible. Season 2 plays to the first season's strengths, mainly in its main cast and the action sequences, by leveraging its two new big character additions, the Punisher and Elektra, to incite plots that give Matt foils that make him question the validity of his vigilante crusade and no-kill rule, and give Foggy and Karen things to do that aren't just following in Matt's footsteps. The season begins with the introduction of Bernthal's Frank Castle, the vet on a warpath, seeking vengeance against the New York gangs that slaughtered his family. As we witness Frank shoot up a hospital while hunting for a gang member that previously escaped his wrath, one can't help but draw comparisons to the cruel efficiency of the Terminator. And while some of the show's characters, and even some of its audience, might grow to sympathize with Frank, Daredevil never makes him out to be cool, or lets us forget that the Punisher is a straight-up monster. And both sides of this character are played incredibly well by Bernthal, who, in terms of straight-up impact, improves this season almost to the extent that Vincent D'Onofrio did in the previous one. Bernthal completely sells the cartoonishly single-minded Punisher as a real person, capable of both the remorseless murders he carries out, and of the deep loss that he feels that drives him, a character whose lack of empathy comes from a purely emotional source. His fight with Daredevil is actually resolved pretty quickly, within the first third of the season, and includes a whole episode where the two just debate the virtues of their different styles of protecting the city. Daredevil sees Punisher as unhinged, while Punisher calls Daredevil a half measure against crime, something that throws Daredevil off edge for the rest of the season. After that, the majority of Punisher's plot actually lies with Foggy and Karen, who become his defense attorneys. While Foggy and Karen work on Frank's legal case, which gives Foggy the chance to step out of Matt's shadow by finding his own footing as a lawyer, and gives Karen the opportunity to find her own place in the show by uncovering the mystery behind the incident of the death of Frank's family, Matt runs into Elektra, who opens up the season's second day plot. Elektra's appearance marks Daredevil jumping headfirst into the more out-there elements of the comic books, and introduces the Hand, a clan of ancient ninjas, as the main villains of the second half of the season. And besides bringing in the opportunity to fight ninjas and do other more exciting things, like an episode where Matt and Elektra team up to do some black-tie Bond-style spying, Elektra also challenges Matt to question whether he puts on the mask to defend the city, or just because he enjoys jumping across rooftops and beating up goons. Unfortunately, despite taking the plot into much more interesting territory, and being played with a white-hot sexuality and ferocity by Elodie Yung, Elektra barely has a character of her own. She's magnetic from her first scene, and her chemistry with Cox's Daredevil is explosive, but her motivations start off unclear, and end up not even being her own. And as everyone who knows the source material knows how the story ends, it's hard not to feel like her character was wasted. The other strength of Season 1 that Season 2 plays on is the fight scenes, and needless to say, the notorious hallway fight from the first season is outdone by an even bigger and more complex extended fight scene that moves from a hallway down a stairwell, as Daredevil beats up an army of bikers with one hand duct taped to a gun, while the other is tied to a chain. And that's not even the best fight this season. Daredevil pulls out all the stops, throwing a literal army of ninjas at our heroes by the end of the season. The best fight scenes, though, belong to Punisher, who earns his title in every skirmish his enemies are unfortunate enough to be in. Elektra, too, has great choreography that combines Punisher's decisive killer instinct with Daredevil's training and efficiency. My one issue with the action this season is that Daredevil still feels like it's cheating by not visualizing exactly how Matt's radar vision works. At points it seems like the writers honestly have no idea how echolocation works, and at its worst moments, it makes Daredevil look completely incompetent. Season 2 is also improved by each episode, and the season overall having a much better structure than Season 1. By having two parallel plots going on at any given time, this season has a lot less fat filling out its 13-episode runtime, and is also allowed to tell each story at its own pace, comfortable in the fact that once it's reached a stop or a lull in one story, it can just switch us to the other one. This is also helped by each main character having their own plots and arcs to go through, so it never feels like one character is forced to play catch-up with any of the others. Daredevil has his crime fighting, Foggy steps up as the only actual lawyer in Nelson and Murdoch, and Karen finds her footing as an investigator by digging into Punisher's past. This season's story does kind of unwind a bit towards the end, with the ultimate conclusion of Punisher and Karen's story in particular going out with a whimper, but I feel it's more or less excusable when the journey there was that much fun. There's actually a lot I want to avoid talking about in this review, as I really do recommend that you watch this for yourself and discover these moments as the show presents them. If you love the first season, Season 2 is a bigger, better version of that. If you add some issues, this one does a great job of playing to last season's strengths while filling in many of the character and plot-related cracks. Daredevil still isn't as perfect an adaptation as some of the other Marvel properties, but it's still one hell of a good time.